Okay, damn, we're just gonna get started. Welcome back to the channel. Woo! I'm sweating. That took me a long time to figure that out. Okay, today we're gonna talk about, I'm gonna go over a bunch of books that I recommend a lot to people and kind of who I'm recommending them to. You know what I mean? I feel like there's a certain level of, if a friend's asking you for a book recommendation, if it's like kind of a stranger, if it's someone online, if it's a family member, or if it's like close friend, work friend, there's different levels, okay? I don't take recommending books to someone lightly. I actually feel like I have to do quite a bit of research to knowing like what type of book they would really like. I feel like it's an important job, okay, is what I'm saying. And you kind of have to know a little bit about a person. So anyways, these are books that I recommend quite frequently to people and kind of just like who I recommend them to, There's different levels to it. So let's get started. We're gonna start off with Dance of Thieves. This is for, I would say, any beginning fantasy readers, people who read a lot but they don't read fantasy. It's a good young adult. It's a pretty simple, like standard plot, but it's fast-paced enough to where it should keep your attention the whole time. At least it did for me. This is one of the first like fantasy books that really got me into the genre. And I just had such a fun time with it. It's a really easy to digest world that it's set in. I feel like there's some fun like banter in here and silliness. This is for the girlies who just need to get into fantasy books. Like, I'm telling you, start here. I recommend this one a lot for people who they read a lot of rom-coms. This gives similar vibes, but it's just set in a cool, complex world, but not too complex, It is still YA. I feel like it's a solid staple in my recommendation bucket, There is a whole nother series that takes place like before this duology. I haven't read it and I wasn't confused by any of like the backstory stuff. I feel like it explains it pretty well. I do want to eventually go back and read it because I have heard it is decent enough. So yeah, this is definitely a staple in ones that I recommend to people. Next, this one's a very often recommended, especially to people who I know who have read fantasy books. This is for the girlies who are like, I loved Fourth Wing, what do I read now? And I don't say this lightly. If you haven't read ACOTAR, this is the one, which most people already have, right? If they're like getting into that genre of romantasy and everything. But I feel like Fourth Wing kind of really blew up and so many people started reading that and then they were like, where do I go? Because there's so many way complex series. Just start here. If you haven't started here, like, go back, just read this one. It's a staple in like the book talk, booktube, whatever, book world for a reason. I recommended this to my cousin Rachel because she said she loved Fourth Wing. She doesn't know what else to read. She wants to get into reading more. This is the book. I'm telling you. Trust me. I know. Trust me, just take my word for it, I guess. I have no credentials in this, but next we have another book that I recommend quite frequently, and it's more for the people that I don't totally know as well. It's just one of my favorite books, A Study in Drowning by Ava Reed. I feel like it has a lot for everyone, and I feel like people most times come to me for fantasy book recommendations because maybe they're not familiar with the genre, at least like people in my real life. I feel like this is a good stepping stone too for the fantasy genre because it's not too out there, I guess. It's a pretty easily digestible, again, story. There is gods, there is magic and everything in it, but it's set in a very realistic world. And it's just damn good also. And I feel like it really just does have a little bit for everyone. It's a cool mystery plot, but there is a teeny bit of romance, and sometimes it's just on the safer side if you don't know if someone wants a lot of romance in their book. Like, this has just been my ride or die for like on the spot recommendations, I would say. And yeah, it's just been one of my favorites, so I'm gonna tell everyone to read it. But yeah, if you haven't read this book, I highly recommend it, obviously. Next we have for the people who maybe want to get into cowboy romances. Again, I feel like this is more for like my real life scenarios with like talking with people or friends or whoever. If they haven't read Elsie Silver, this is where you start with cowboy romances, in my opinion. I love this whole series. This book's great. There's other ones in the series that I like better, but I feel like this is just a good stepping stone with it. For the girlies who have read Elsie Silver and want more recommendations for cowboy romances, you have to go Alive and Wells. This book literally slaps. It is so good. If you like the movie Safe Haven, this definitely gives similar vibes. It is more like thriller-esque in a way, and definitely check like trigger warnings and everything with this book, but oh my god, it's so good, and it gives you enough of like anxiety-inducing plot that you're like, it's not just a silly little country romance. But yeah, this is where I send people next. If they've read Elsie Silver and they need some more good country cowboy romances, this is the one. Next on my list, I have The Bridge Kingdom. I recommend this to the cool girls, you know, the girls who have read The Fourth Wing, ACOTAR, even maybe Throne of Glass. I recommend this to friends of friends, the cool girls that I know, you know, if I've recommended this to you, I think you're cool, is what I'm saying. I think this series is just such a staple. It's also easy to digest, I would say, and it's a really fun plot, and it's a really large world, and it is a series. It's incompleted, but there's just more books to it, there's more to the story, so it's for the girls who are like really committed with reading fantasy books now, you know? Like, it's not just a standalone, it's not a duology, there's a little bit more to it. This one's just so good, and I think it's still criminally underrated. I love that the covers are being republished and everything, new covers. That's so fun, so read this book for sure. Next we have, I would say, another staple. Obviously, I think this is a very popular one to recommend to people, Throne of Glass. I really only recommend this to people who have read enough fantasy romance and they're like, I need a big series, or if they really want to feel pain. I try not recommend this to that many people because I feel like it's so, like, everyone knows about it for the most part. If they really want like pain and like the best series I've ever read in my life, it is this one, okay? Basically, I try not to over recommend this one. There's like not much better than this one, is what I'm saying. Next I have Fear the Flames. This is for the people who need more dragon books. Me, I constantly need more dragon books. Mainly for people who have also read like Fourth Wing or ACOTAR, any of the really popular ones, and they're like, I don't know what to read next. I like dragons, I like magic. This one's very easily digestible in my opinion. It's not YA though, it is adult, I'm pretty sure, and it's a damn fun time, okay? I read this as an ARC, and I got the physical copy once it came out. I'm obsessed with it. I cannot wait for the second one. I actually think about this book quite a bit, and I feel like I don't talk about it quite as much. I love this book. Dragons, fun, heist, fast-paced plot. I know this isn't for everyone because it does have a lot of mainstream like tropes and kind of just a lot of stuff going on in it, but I like it. I had fun with it. So I recommend this one quite a bit actually. For the girls who love dragons, read this one. These next two are for the well-seasoned readers, the girls who have been reading for a little bit longer, who may not watch like a ton of book talk, booktube content, and like know all the big popular books. But these ones, to me, are a staple. When the Moon Hatched. I talk about this book any chance that I can. This one also has dragons and magic and a complex world and an amazing main character, and just there's a lot going on in this book, and I love a really, really big, all-consuming story, basically. I love recommending this one to the girlies who are ready for the next big, crazy book. And then lastly, this is really for the people who mainly watch a lot of my book talk videos or like follow me on Instagram and see what I'm posting about. Like, they need to know my favorite series or my like what was I so obsessed with. They need something that's just gonna consume them, mind, body, and soul. Daughter of No Worlds. This is the War of Lost Hearts trilogy by Carissa Broadbent. I will die on this hill that this series is so underrated. It's actually criminal. I think about it all the time. It is definitely for the people who love Throne of Glass and all the big fantasy series, but also need like a little bit of sci-fi and a little bit more complex characters, I would say. Not that any of those other books aren't complex. These characters are just, they're crazy. I love them. There's so many layers to so many of them. The second book is my favorite in the entire world. But this series alone, like, I just recommend it to so many like well-read fantasy romantasy readers, I would say. The girlies need to read this one. If you haven't read this, please read it. But yeah, those are my recommendations. I really love talking about books to people in real life as well as on the internet, obviously. I like to try and have a good like mental list in my brain, and this is like kind of my mental list of things that I recommend to people, ones that I really like talking about, that I feel like I know enough about on the spot, I guess. Yeah, let me know if you've read any of those, if you love those, what books you would recommend me based off of my little list. And yeah, thanks for watching. Love you, bye!